Well, Vice President Kamala Harris is getting blowback for a lack of specifics in her economic plan, as you watch there. Despite that, she says there is a place for you in the Harris economy.
Harris has proposed raising taxes on businesses, saying people need to pay their fair share. When pressed for detailed economic proposals, Harris often talks about how she grew up in a middle-class household and how you, as an American, have the right to pursue your ambitions. Congressman Jonathan Jackson is an Illinois Democratic congressman. He joins us live this morning. Congressman, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So as a Democrat, are you satisfied with the way that Vice President Harris has been rolling out her economic plan?
Absolutely. It's been very consistent. She's touched the base. She's going to show you where the areas that have been hard hit. She's finishing the mission that they've already started with the Inflation Reduction Act. This has been the biggest investment in public infrastructure as well as in the social fabric. There's money now to remove lead service lines. For example, in my district that's leading the nation, there's no safe amount of lead, so that is tremendous progress. That means fewer people be sick, fewer people would need the medical services, and she's being very consistent about it. What I wish I would see happen is if Donald Trump would agree to a second debate, then you can clearly see the contrast between the visions. So to hold her out alone and not have something that she can juxtapose, that we can have an honest debate so you can see it, then we wouldn't be so critical. We'd see more of the content and the substance.
Right, and that debate, and even if that would happen, and maybe there are others that do want to see it, like yourself, it wouldn't happen until the end of October, really days away from the November 5th election, when a lot of folks have already voted mail-in voting, absentee early voting. Does that make a big difference in terms of having another debate so late in the game?
Well, this is standard, so let's not say this is unusual and aberration, that if they were to have the process, then there's the debate lead up where you can continue to discuss these issues. People need to see what the fiscal cliff is going to be, that you're already seeing the deficit and debt expanding under the Trump tax cuts. Why did the wealthiest people get the most economic and tax benefit? And where you had a few billionaires many years ago, now, what was that, was one person worth $100 billion 20 years ago? Now it's over 100 people that's worth over $100 billion, and we've not done anything to adjust taxation. I don't think people on average realize the scale of wealth that has been transferred without a fairness in taxation. So to talk about growing the middle class, to talk about reinvesting in the people that we've all benefited from, I think is the key economic message, and it works.
Congressman, she has polled quite well on issues like personality and fitness to govern. She has not done so well on the economy. Let's take a look at another poll if we have that. This is a recent CNN poll. Voters trust former President Donald Trump more than Vice President Harris on that issue. Why do you think her message is not getting out there? Is this because she entered the race so late in the game?
Well, I think there could be some discrepancy in what that polling number says. I think if these are likely registered voters that are at home during the middle of the day, then more than likely they could say one thing. But the people that are working the low-wage jobs, the people that are benefiting from the student debt cancellation, they're extremely excited about it. When you talk about addressing child care, what's Donald Trump's position on child care? She's laying out very detailed, consistent plans with the legislation they've already passed. Donald Trump promised us to build back better day every day of his administration and got nothing done. President Biden, Vice President Harris, they delivered and got that money passed. They've got that agenda rolling forward. And now in so many ways, this is about finishing the work of the good things that have already been done. And unfortunately, what I've had to learn about government, the things that were passed in the 117th Congress, people congratulate me on. Thank you for bringing money back. No, the money was allocated in the 117th under the Biden-Harris administration. And for the person that sits in the seat now, it looks like we did something, when in fact we're the windfall beneficiary. Well, the same thing's going to happen with this Inflation Reduction Act money. The money to remove the lead service lines was passed in the 117th Congress, and it's going to be hitting down by the start of the 119th Congress. So there's a lag effect that we have to connect the message. and where people can see the economic benefit. But to have over $100 billion of student loan debt forgiven is a huge issue.
That was already kicked
President Joe
back by
Biden
the
and Vice
Supreme
President Harris,
Court, with
they're
all due
not getting the
respect. I didn't want
credit
to
they
cut you off.
deserve.
I just wanted to, we're limited with time. I wanted to get to other things. But again, that was cut off by the Supreme Court. You need Congress to go ahead and pass that to be able to do that. Also, the IRA did nothing to bring down inflation, which you well know. I wanted to get to this point. New York City Mayor Eric Adams is currently facing a federal indictment. This breaking news.
I'm not going to I'll let that go this time on the bringing down inflation. That's another conversation, but finish your point.
Thank you. The indictment is currently sealed. The specific counts he is going to be charged with, that's currently unknown. But Mayor Adams is denying any wrongdoing, saying the whole thing is seemingly a hit job. We have that moment. Watch this. This is Mayor Eric Adams.
My fellow New Yorkers, it is now my belief that the federal government intends to charge me with crimes. If so, these charges will be entirely false, based on lies. But they would not be surprising. I always knew that if I stood my ground for all of you, that I would be a target.
And after that, again, he calls himself a target. Your colleague, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, called on Mayor Adams to resign just hours before the news broke. Again, he maintains his innocence, innocent until proven guilty. I assume you believe in that. As a Democrat, do you believe it's time for Adams to go? Are you calling for him to resign based on this recent indictment that is sealed?
No, I don't know that much about it. I do believe in the innocent until proven guilty. That's a New Yorkers issue, and I would trust their leadership, and I would give them benefit of the doubt. But what is clear is when somebody's been convicted of high crimes, when someone sees the benefits of the January 6th rioters and does not consider them criminals, when we've got persons in the Congress now like Higgins that out of Louisiana that are saying the most vicious racist things about Haitians in Ohio. We've got the top of the ticket on J.D. Vance and Donald Trump spreading lies and creating fear in the city of Springfield, Ohio, where the students have to evacuate the schools. That's a level of violence and political corruption that we have to stop.
Certainly,
so I wish them well in New York, but I'm going to stay focused on us getting across this finish line.
Yeah, Congressman, as a native Chicagoan, I think I learned what RICO was in preschool. So I'm no stranger to these kinds of investigations, nor are you, sir. There are 14 members of the Adams administration that have been tied by the feds to these 4 different inquiries. I know we haven't seen the indictment. It's not been unsealed. Probably will happen later today. But it seems like there is something there. Is it not?
No, I would hope that I trust the Justice Department. I trust Mayor Adams. I wish that they have a fair day in court. But we do know is there 96 indictments on President Trump. We do know there was a conspiracy where there were persons such as Rudy Giuliani, a fellow New Yorker. He knows something about RICO. So he's one of the inventors of RICO, and now he's being charged with it on his election engineering and racketeering. So I think let's focus on what we do know versus what still has to have its day in court.
Well, Congressman,
fair enough.
Right.
Sorry.
But I just wanted to mention what we do know is that this indictment, for whatever it is coming after a time where Mayor Eric Adams was very critical of the Biden-Harris administration, specifically handling the migration crisis that we have in this country, how it's really crippled New York City. In fact, he said there was no leadership on this. Then seemingly these charges come after. Not saying that these charges are not valid, whatever they are, but again, 2 things can be true at once. Do you think there was political motivation to come forward with these charges?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Well, if you think about it, I think it's independent. What Mr. Adams has faced was targeted by the Governor Greg Abbott out of Texas when he specifically started sending busloads of migrants into Democratic cities. I sent a letter into the Department of Health and to Homeland Security and Health and Human Services and Department of Justice, asking them to investigate. Trafficking children across state lines that are unaccompanied adults in this country is a crime. He was dumping people on the city streets of New York, Chicago, Boston, Denver, Los Angeles, very explicitly. That was criminal behavior and racketeering, if you will, that should be explored again. but there's no backlash on anything orchestrated. My God, President Joe Biden let his own son go the full length of the court. He let the court process play out. So President Joe Biden has enormous integrity. He didn't even get involved with the Justice Department against his own son. So I think that demonstrates his level of character and commitment to the judicial process.
Congressman, one final question about the corruption probe. 3 top people in this administration have suddenly resigned or decided that they are resigning effective December 31st. Do you see that as a coincidence, considering this is all happening at one time? It'd be a heck of a coincidence, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think people start trying to make evaluations. I think when you look at all the top leadership resigning from the campaign of gubernatorial candidate Robinson in New York, in North Carolina, they see someone that would call themselves a black Nazi as a black-faced ventriloquist of racism. And those decent people that stood around him, I applaud them for stepping down. But I noticed that nobody in North Carolina that's in elected office has distanced themselves from Robinson. I see President Trump has not denounced Robinson for his racist action. And whether it's a black person or white, since they're so agnostic to race and culture, they ought to be reprimanded. I've not heard a strong condemnation from persons in Washington, D.C. to talk about Mr. Robinson in the state of North Carolina. So we should condemn hate speech wherever we go.
Well, certainly hate speech is wrong. But again, on this indictment, do you think that all of these people are resigning or jumping off of the cliff, so to speak, at the same time? There are 14 people in this administration that have been tied to 4 separate federal investigations. The feds have been on this for 10 months with respect to just Mayor Adams.
Yeah, well, I think that they are lawyered up, that they have reason to be, and whatever they know, I hope they come forward quickly to the courthouse and get that information out. But I also respect people like former Attorney General Barr that resigned, didn't want to have any part to do with Donald J. Trump. I also respect Rex Tillerson, formerly of Mobil Exxon, that resigned from the Trump administration. You even have to appreciate Jeff Sessions, if you can imagine saying anything good about him, when he no longer wanted to be affiliated with Donald Trump. So we've seen people jump ship. And you got to thank Brian Kemp in Georgia when he stood up and told Trump he wouldn't find him 11,780 votes. So I appreciate people that stand up. I don't appreciate what Kemp is doing now, but he had the audacity and courage to look Donald J. Trump in the face and tell me you're wrong.
Time there. Illinois Democratic Congressman Jonathan Jackson, thank you for accepting the invitation. We appreciate that.
Covering a lot of territory this morning. Thank you,
very much.
Congressman.